So, what if things like droughts, famines, and floods weren't just random? What if they were connected to something deeper? Today, we're diving into this really old, really powerful worldview that saw a direct line between the health of our planet and the health of our society. It's a vision of creation, judgment, and ultimately salvation from the ancient prophets, and you might be surprised how much it speaks to our world right now.
It all kicks off with this one big question, one that might sound a little strange to us. You see, when the prophets saw an environmental disaster, a harvest failing, a river drying up, they didn't just shrug and say, well, that's nature for you. They saw a symptom of a much bigger problem, one that started with people. So what exactly did they see? What was the connection they were making?
To really get our heads around their thinking, we have to start with their most basic belief about how the world works. For them, everything was about balance. And that balance, it was incredibly fragile. At the heart of it is this idea that some scholars call an interrelated reality. So what does that even mean? Well, it means the prophets believed you just couldn't separate human morality from the health of the environment. Things like social injustice, greed, and corruption didn't just hurt other people. They literally physically poisoned the land itself. Human sin had real-world environmental consequences that would ripple out and mess up the entire system. The prophet Amos really spells this out. He says, look, because of this special relationship, there's a higher responsibility. And that little word, therefore, that's the key. It's the hinge that connects the people's actions, their iniquities, directly to the consequences. For a prophet like Amos, this wasn't some kind of metaphor. It was simple cause and effect, woven right into the fabric of reality. Okay, so if our actions can throw the world out of balance, how does that actually play out? How does that judgment happen? Well, the prophets saw it happening through a couple of different kinds of agents out in the world. They basically broke it down into two main categories. First up, you've got your non-human agents. This is the created world itself kind of pushing back. Forces of nature, animals, the land turning against you. And then second, you have foreign agents. And this is other people, other nations, invading armies, big political empires that the prophets saw as, believe it or not, instruments being used for a divine purpose. And they gave all sorts of specific examples. Amos, for instance, directly links famine and disease to what the people were doing. Joel describes a swarm of locusts like it's a divine army on the march. And Jeremiah, he takes it even further. He calls the conquering king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, God's servant. Think about that. He's saying even the enemy army and the trees they cut down for their war machines are part of this interconnected system of consequences. But here's where the idea gets even more profound. It wasn't always about some outside force, an army or a plague, swooping in to punish people. Sometimes the problem was a lot more direct. And this is such a critical idea to grasp. The punishment wasn't always some external thing. More often, the prophets believed the wicked action was its own punishment. So, how does that even work?
Let's break it down. Think of it in 3 steps. Step 1, somebody commits an act of injustice or wickedness. Step 2, that action doesn't just vanish. It creates this kind of moral fallout in the world around it. So then, step 3, the consequence, the judgment, is just the natural result of all that fallout. It grows out of the original bad deed just as naturally as a fruit grows from its seed. The key word here is intrinsic. The bad result isn't some penalty that gets tacked on later. The message from the prophets is that when you create a toxic social environment through your actions, well, eventually, you're the one who has to live in it. You end up having to, as this quote so vividly puts it, stew in the juices that you yourself prepared.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds pretty bleak, doesn't it? A world of consequences, judgment, fallout, just bad news all around. But for the prophets, this was never, ever the end of the story. It was always leading somewhere much more hopeful. All that judgment, all the hardship and the tough consequences, they saw it as a painful but necessary process, almost like a purification, because the ultimate goal was never total annihilation. Not at all. It was always aimed at healing, at restoration, at creating something new and whole again. And this is the absolutely beautiful vision they held out as the final goal. The prophet Isaiah gives us this picture of the future, where the entire created order is restored to a state of perfect peace. The wolf is living with the lamb, the leopard is hanging out with the goat, and notice, it's not just about humans finally getting along. The healing goes all the way down into the natural world itself. It's the ultimate expression of that interrelated reality. When humanity is healed, the whole world is healed right along with it. And that brings everything full circle, right back to us. In a world that's dealing with ecological crises and really deep social divisions, this ancient idea, this conviction that the health of our planet and the justice in our societies are actually the same thing, well, it feels more urgent than ever. So the question is, could this vision of a healed, interconnected world still show us a way forward?